Hi and welcome back to the channel. This video is going to be a grab bag of science fiction movies I've already watched recently that are worth checking out. If you're seeing them for the first time, good. If you haven't seen them for a while, maybe it's time to stick the disc in the slot again. What do you get if you put Alien, Quatermass in the Pit, Dracula, the end of Star Trek the Motion Picture, and the Penthouse video scene from Amazon Women on the Moon in a blender? You get Life Force. Made by Canon Films under the Menachem Golem and Yoram Globus regime, this movie is as mad as a cut snake. A pimped-out European space shuttle heads for Halley's Comet and finds a 150-mile-long spaceship hiding in the tail of the dirty snowball for no apparent reason. The astronauts board the H.R. Giger-inspired ship and find the desiccated corpses of giant space bats as well as 3 naked people in sealed tubes. The male astronauts are instantly smitten by the sight of an 18-year-old Matilda May packaged like a Barbie doll.
I'd say she's perfect. I've been in space for 6 months, and she looks perfect to me.
The female astronaut is like this. Weeks later, the shuttle has gone silent as it approaches the Earth and is met by another shuttle which brings the pre-packaged aliens to London. Later, the sole survivor of the shuttle, Tom Carlson, played by Steve Railsback, lands in Texas in an escape pod just as the investigators in London find out that the sky-clad alien woman is a vampire who sucks the life force out of people until they look like a dehydrated Willem Dafoe. The main investigators looking into the soul suckers are Colonel Kane, a supposed SAS officer played by a reedy Peter Firth, and Dr. Fallada, played by Frank Finlay. Railsback astronaut soon joins them, and the interesting thing about Steve Railsback in this role is that he has one emotional note: frantic.
If he slips out from under, she'll escape.
The writing of every character in this movie is thinner than the corpses. It's kind of a relief when Patrick Stewart turns up as the head doctor of a mental asylum. He tries to put some vitality into his small role, and he also gets to have his first on-screen movie kiss with Steve Railsback. The movie doesn't end well for Patrick Stewart's character. As our heroes fly back to London, everything has gone to hell. The aliens and their soul-sucked victims are messing up the city. Life force energy is swirling around like a 1970s laser light show display. Fallada figures out how to take down the aliens, which would stop everyone in England having their soul sucked out of them, as happened in real life when Boris Johnson tried to handle COVID and Brexit at the same time. The special effects are fairly good for the 1980s, with John Darkstar running the show. But the scripting is all over the place, and anything to do with human beings is really poorly written. The whole movie's concept is pretty crazy. It's based on a novel by Colin Wilson called The Space Vampires. You've got a naked space teenager, crazy astronauts, SAS guy with average muscle tone, and Patrick Stewart having his blood sucked out of his nostrils. And the weirdest thing of all is that the movie's score is written by Henry Mancini, the guy who did Breakfast at Tiffany's and The Pink Panther. Once you start looking at Japanese live-action movies that emulate anime, you go down a rabbit hole of what the fuck. It's hard to pull yourself out once you start. From 1989's Tetsuo the Iron Man with its janky life-size stop-motion animation and low-res black-and-white aesthetic, through the 2004 adaptation of the 1970s anime Cutie Honey and the 2006 live-action Gigantor movie Tetsujin 28 the Movie, that stuff will mess with your head if you let it. Which brings us to Noboru Iguchi's Robo Geisha. In the movie, Yoshi is Cinderella to her sister Kikue, who is a geisha. Meanwhile, a pair of Tengu, female cyborg assassins, are knocking off politicians and businessmen in imaginative ways. The Tengu are mind-controlled slaves of the Kageno Corporation, which runs an army of female assassins, and who's to say large corporations don't anyway. The families of the mind-controlled killers form a revolutionary movement against the corporation to get their daughters and granddaughters back, and they eventually team up with Yoshi. Both Yoshi and Kikue become cyborg robo-geishas with butt swords, machine gun boobs, and other unexpected enhancements. Using some sketchy CGI and a lot of mad imagination, Iguchi's comedy science fiction action film is over-the-top wonderfulness. You even get some mecha action too as the craziness escalates. Iguchi makes his low budgets and semi-rural locations a virtue. The CGI looks incredibly basic, but that's the visual aesthetic the movie is going for. You accept it in the same way you accept Astro Boy's windmilling arms. Robo Geisha mocks and uses the traditions of Japanese culture in some satirical ways, and I find the low-budget kludginess of this kind of cinema a lot of fun. Once you watch Robo Geisha, you can go on to Vampire Girl vs. Frankenstein Girl, Machine Girl, and a whole spectrum of other silly, over-the-top tokusatsu action comedies. If they're outside your usual viewing habits, just knock back a couple of beverages and ride the weirdness. Jack Shoulder's 1987 science fiction actioner holds up really well in 2021. Michael Nouri plays a homicide cop called Beck, who teams up with Kyle MacLachlan's ostensible FBI agent Gallagher to track down a serial killer who likes fast cars and hard rock music. The insane part is that the perp is an alien parasite moving from host to host to indulge its every whim. And Kyle MacLachlan is another alien riding in the body of a yuppie who is tracking him down, if he is the right pronoun. Strangely and most wonderfully, within this buddy cop action flick, there's a subtext about what it is to be human. The script has a really nice sense of escalation, even though it starts out with a daytime car chase through downtown LA. The alien really likes Ferraris. There's lots of squib work and really solid practical special effects by Kevin Yeager that sell the parasite and the yucky way it transfers from one host to another. A lot of people remember this film for Claudia Christian playing a stripper, shooting up the cops and taking a nosedive off a building, but that's the least of this movie. The slow growth of Beck's realization that his new partner is more than just a weirdo from Seattle is really well done. Both Michael Nouri and Kyle MacLachlan are solid. There's something about top-notch 1980s practical effects that transcends craft and turns it into art. And knowing how to use them sparingly to serve the story without drawing the audience out of the narrative is another part of that art. Modern CGI-heavy movies could learn this less is more lesson. All the actors playing the hosts of the parasite deserve some props as well. Well before Vincent D'Onofrio and Men in Black, these actors nailed it. They add a weirdness to The Hidden that makes it really work. The Hidden's a science fiction actioner that respects both the genre and the audience, and rewatching it was a lot of fun. This movie was a directorial debut of John Carpenter, and it's a micro-budget science fiction comedy which started out as a USC student film made between 1970 and 1972. In 1974, it was expanded to a feature film with an ultimate budget of $60,000. In the 22nd century, the scout ship Darkstar has the task of finding unstable planets that threaten future human colonization and vaporizing them with AI-equipped robots. 20 years Earth time into the mission, things are starting to go wrong. Captain was killed and placed in cryonic suspension, where he's still able to talk to the crew. And the 4 other crew members have gone insane while dealing with ongoing malfunctions, crises, and personality clashes. The crew also have an alien pet, kind of like a beach ball with claws like the creature from the Black Lagoon, which almost kills Pinback, played by Dan O'Bannon. O'Bannon later went on to work on Alien, Blue Thunder, The Return of the Living Dead, and Life Force, mostly as a screenwriter. Pinback's battle with the alien is funny with a solid sense of comedic suspense and escalation. The astronauts in Darkstar are the exact opposite of the 2 astronauts in 2001: A Space Odyssey. In Kubrick's movie, the astronauts have no personality at all, and in Darkstar they all have too much personality. For the budget, the special effects are exceptional. Muffin pans appear as chest plates on spacesuits, and underlit ice cube trays form part of the control consoles. For kludged together sets, they really still look good to this day. Darkstar was a perennial midnight movie back in the day. With a country and western theme song, Benson, Arizona, a spaceship designed by the king of mid-20th century futuristic design, Ron Cobb, and some computer screen displays that look pretty good. Darkstar is a fun and imaginatively presented comedy that retains the naive feeling of a student film. For anybody's first movie, it's a pretty good effort. In alien invasion movies, it's usually rich, empowered white guys who save the world, but in Joe Cornish's Attack the Block, that narrative gets flipped on its head in the best way possible. Jodie Whittaker, before she was Doctor Who and before her nose job, plays Sam, a nurse who is robbed on her way home from work by a group of teenagers who live in the same tower block as she does. The tower block is called Wyndham Towers, which is a nod to John Wyndham. She gets away as a meteorite center punches a nearby car, and a chimp-sized alien runs out and claws the face of Moses, the leader of the gang, played by John Boyega. The movie's set on Guy Fawkes night, so the meteorite is mistaken for fireworks. The gang chase and kill the chimp-like alien. They then take it up to Ron, played by Nick Frost, the local drug dealer who has a pot plantation in his flat. Then a whole bunch of the meteorites fall, and fast, deadly, gorilla-sized aliens emerge, all looking for the first alien and anyone who touched it. The movie nods to Walter Hill's The Warriors, and it's got a solid cast of young actors including Franz Drame and Luke Treadaway. Attack the Block works because it flips the traditional narrative of alien invasion movies, and it folds in some valid social commentary in a balls-to-the-wall action movie without slowing the pace of the film down one tiny bit. Joe Cornish is currently in pre-production for Attack the Block 2. I don't know anything about the sequel yet, so I'll wait for the trailer before judging it. The first movie, however, does everything right and has some aliens that are truly original and really terrifying. So that's 5 movies for you to watch or rewatch if you'd like to. Thank you very much for watching. As always, please consider subscribing, leaving a like, and hitting the notification bell, and let me know a few of the more recent science fiction movies that you really enjoyed. You can support the channel by going to patreon.com/paleocinema. And as always, look after yourselves. Do what you need to do. Get the jab. Watch some great science fiction movies. Watch some janky and fun science fiction movies. And I'll catch you next time.